Yeah, that was probably. Oh, wow. Okay, we'll get the next part. Okay, that's enough of this. Right now, I have something else to work on, but I don't know. Should we try this? Or I wanted time to look at the packet. Let's go ahead and put these books away and get out your homework packet.
Look at my Google. I think this is all my
Okay, that's because I gotta give you access. Jenny, that one might be good to do tomorrow, just because I think it is timed. How many problems are on it, did it say? Yeah. I could open it for you right now. Or you just want to do something else and we'll get it to you tomorrow? Okay. All right. Pack it out in front of you, yes? Oscar, you got your packet? Sam, you have your packet? Good. Yeah, they might be helpful for what we're doing right now, so you could keep your calculator. Okay. The first thing I wanted to look at was the first page, because the function is very similar to one off the quiz, and this is the one people had trouble with. Lynn and her friend Thomas. Brody, could you read about Lynn and Thomas?
Lynn and her friend Thomas are collecting food from the local food bank. Their goal is to collect a total of 1,785 pounds of food. They start with 225 pounds donated by a local grocery store. Their goal is to collect 20 pounds of food per day.
Okay, so we've got a partially constructed table. We need to figure out what do these two columns represent. Okay, what's our independent and dependent quantities here? They're collecting food over time. What's going to be our independent quantity?
Days of food.
Okay, so time measured in days. Food. What are they measuring it in? Pounds. Okay, on day 0, do they have 0 food? Try again. On day 0, they have a starting amount, so that's 225. Each successive day, they're adding a certain amount. How much are they adding per day? I don't know if I heard it. 20 pounds of food per day. Okay? So if I've gone 10 days, cents times 0, I need to go 10 times 20 and add that to my
200, that's 425.
food so far.
I use my noggin.
And if I've gone 15 days, I need to go 15 times 20.
I don't know what that was.
and add it to the 225.
300 plus 225.
That better? Okay.
25.
Ultimately 525 after you add them all up. Okay? So each step of the way, whatever days it is, that's going to be times 20 because we're getting 20 per day, but we have to add it to the starting amount.
725.
Thank you.
Right?
725.
Now, thinking about this, you got to divide, but before you divide, you need to take out the starting amount. So the first thing, this one I can see is 1,225. I know that's 1,000 plus 225. And the reason I'm showing it to you like this is I'm reminding you, they started with that. So what we need to divide really is this 1,000. That's the amount they've collected over time. How much are they collecting per day? 20 pounds. So after you're ahead of the game, Sam. So after we say 1,000, how many days is that? Well, that's 1,000. If 20 per day, that must have been 50 days. Okay. So in this one right here, what do I need to subtract out before I do that divide? 225. So on clear, mode clear, 1505 minus 225.
I saw Bo last the other day.
Okay, wait a minute. Andy, why did I take away that 225?
Because you're not going like the entire. Yeah, you're going backwards instead of like.
We're going backwards, but why did I just take this number and subtract 225?
You just want to find how many days it was.
How many days, and why is that not part of the days?
Because you add that after you multiply.
You add that after. Huh? That's what they started with. So the days, the amount collected per days is anything after that 225. So we have to take that out first before we can figure out how many days, and then this divide by 20 is the days. What do we get when we divide by 20 here? Thank you. And so this expression here is 225 plus 20 times t. Yep, I knew it. I was having an issue there. Okay, 20 per day. Okay? Write a function, f of t. Do you like the 225 first or the 225 second?
Second.
So 20t plus 225. This is the amount you get per day. And this is the amount you started with. They said they go straight to slope and y-intercept. I think the slope is 20 over 1. Okay? And what that means is interpreted amount collected per day. Probably I should have said amount of food. That's what the 20 over 1 is. Okay, now the y-intercept. Okay, let's take a look at the graph, and that'll make more sense. Y-intercept. That's going to be the amount of food at time 0. What was the amount of food at time 0? 225. That looks like that'll be right about here. So y-intercept, the way they show this graph, that's time 0. Okay, so let's go back up here. Slope was 20, y-intercept
0.225.
is 225. That's the amount of food at the start. Okay, estimating the amount of food after amount of days for 600 pounds. I'm going to look at the table to make that estimate. 600 pounds is somewhere between 525 and 725, so somewhere between 15 and 25 days. How many days do you think? 20? Just go to a nice in the middle. 20 days. And you can do that estimate a couple of ways, but going back to our table we were able to see, we need to graph the function. They already set up the graph for us, so we're going to read our chart. We already have one dot. What's the second line down? 10 and 425. So first of all, 10 is halfway over to 20. And then 425 is the amount of food. On the table, what's the third line down say? 15. So that'll be one more little box over. And how much was it? 525. So there's the. So each step of the way on the table, these can be treated as ordered pairs where this is the x and this is the y. So the next one I'm going to do is 25, 725, if people didn't understand what we were doing there. 25, so here's 20, 40, that must be 30. So 25 is halfway up a box probably. And I'm going to 725. Well, this is 600, 800. That must be 700, a little bit higher than 700. Okay, we have a couple more points, but we're close to where we can throw a line through it. And now using the graph, they want us to estimate the 600 pounds. So we go and find 600.
600 to 20.
And I do an intersect. Where it crosses, I'm looking down now to try and figure out days. That's 600 pounds of food. This is my graph. I'm looking down, it's underneath 20. Isn't that what it looks like to you? What does it look like on your graph? I'm going to call it 19 days. Okay, again, I'm making a lot of estimates or guesses on these dots, but that's what you do. You use this to make a line at 600 and then look down from where they intersect. Okay, you guys can work on some of that. I want to look at another page. Flip to the first page with all this slope and y-intercept stuff. Andy,
Yeah.
if you're given an equation, where do you find the slope?
How do you find slope? Let's see.
So one before the x.
The Myra says it's the one before the x.
Yeah. Yes.
Where do we find the y-intercept?
Yeah.
You find it after, yeah.
It's negative 10.
Negative 10. So this page, I'm hoping, is an easy page. Flip. Oh. Okay. We'll look at those other tables another day. I want to look at more. Flip to the next graphing page. sketch each line and write the equation. It gives you a slope and a y-intercept. The first thing you do is take that y-intercept and put it on the y-axis. Y-intercept's 4. Here's a 4. Put a dot. The next thing you do is you take this slope and know this is rise over run. So from this dot, it's telling us to go up 1 over 2. So from these two things, the slope and y-intercept, I can get the line. And in the equation, I go y equals 1/2 x. The slope goes in front of the x. Plus 4. The y-intercept gets added after. Okay? Rough?
Yep.
Okay, that's good. On graphing, there's one more graphing page. This one's the hardest. They're all kind of related to each other, but they're looking at it in a slightly different way. I need to write an equation, and I have a graph. So looking at that graph, I need a slope and a y-intercept. To find a slope, I need to find two spots where it looks like it hits the grid exactly. I like these two. Working from left to right, I go up 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This looks like slope
1 over 5.
is 1 over 5. I also need y-intercept, and I look on the y-axis and say, where does it crisscross? -2. It didn't ask you to write these things, but I'm just making a little note to myself because that's what I need for my equation. Y equals 1 over 5x minus 2. I found the slope by looking at up and over between 2 points. I find the y-intercept by looking at where the line crosses. Again, you're working on this packet a little bit all week long. Come in with questions when you don't understand stuff. Okay? Calculators I need together and back up in the box. Not until we have the calculator. Well, then we can. Thank you. Two more calculators.
Dos más.
Dos más, por favor. You guys see them?
Oh, I got one more. 2 more.
One more. You got two? Okay. So you can listen for the bell, my friends. Wow.
There you go.